So we're lucky and we get to talk about some of the fun and exciting components to moving here in Germany. And that is, first things first, it's important to figure out where you want to live. And for some of you, you're going to know exactly where you want to live already, because that's either you've already found a job in Germany, you have a partner who already lives in Germany. But for those of you who have just become inspired, want to move to Germany, haven't found that job yet, and don't know exactly where you want to live, let this module inspire you to figure out where exactly you fit in and where you think you would best enjoy your new life in Germany. So we're going to go some of the most popular ones in today's module, and I've actually been to every single one of these cities. I've been to every single state in Germany before on an adventure to try to figure out where are the best places to live and where are the most beautiful spots in Germany to visit. So some of these we're going to mention in this module, and I'm excited to go through them. If you already know where you want to live, use this module as a way to become inspired and write down the places that you want to visit. Because Germany, for a Canadian like myself, is such a small country, and there's so many opportunities and so many amazing places and things that you can visit. So let this module inspire you simply to find a new place to go and explore. So the thing about Germany is that, unlike Canada, where I come from, a lot of the cities are very, very unique. Every single city offers something entirely different. Some cities might be better for some of us and others might be better for others. And it's up to you to figure out where you think that you would best enjoy your time here in Germany. So each city has different amenities. And of course, based on the size, also depends on how many amenities they offer and whether or not they offer plenty of English amenities or German. You also may or may not need to learn German, depending on where you choose to live. When I moved to Düsseldorf years back, I initially couldn't get by speaking English, and it was really, really difficult for me to get by here in Düsseldorf. However, nowadays it is really, really easy to get by with English. My mom's here visiting at the moment, and she just thinks it's a breeze speaking English here, which was entirely different from me. So things change. However, right now, for example, if you go to Berlin, chances are you won't even need to learn to speak the language, though I recommend you do. It's just a lot easier when getting settled in, especially if you don't need to know the language right off the bat. Some cities might have more job opportunities than others, that's a given, but some cities also might be offering more English job opportunities than others. At the moment, for example, Düsseldorf, I find, does not have very many English opportunities, but year after year that is continuing to grow, so you always just have to keep updated and seeing which cities are offering those jobs and whether or not you think that is an option for you to move to that city. Some cities have better temperatures than others. I know a lot of people who move to the north into cities like, for example, Bremen or Hamburg, might say that it's quite windy and quite chilly, especially when the winter months come. There's also cities like Freiburg, which is down in the south, and they tend to be one of the sunniest cities here in Germany. There are many cities in Germany that are more international than others. Usually the larger cities tend to be the more international cities, but it also depends on where the job opportunities lie, because I find that many of the cities that have international companies are the cities where you'll find the most expats. And of course, there are better opportunities to travel. Better is, of course, by definition, depending on what you enjoy. I live in Düsseldorf, so for me, it's about 30 minutes to the Netherlands, 45 minutes to Belgium, which I find absolutely fantastic. If you enjoy countries like Switzerland or Austria, perhaps you're going to look more towards Freiburg or Munich area. And then, of course, you've got Czech Republic and you've got Poland, and you've got so many different amazing countries that you can visit. So depending on where you'd like to visit and where in proximity you'd like to be to other countries will also depend on which city might be best for you. Weather in Germany is a tough one, and that's because for me, coming from Canada, I find the weather and the temperature in Germany to be quite mild. However, if you're coming somewhere from perhaps Australia or New Zealand or Thailand, you might disagree and find Germany to be absolutely freezing cold. In general, I would say you can expect to experience all 4 seasons. For me, a little bit milder than in Canada, and for you, perhaps a little bit stronger. But if you look at the temperatures here, you can see that in winter that it's on average about 3 degrees Celsius. In extreme weather, you might reach down to -10, if not a little bit colder. To be honest, I haven't experienced -10 all that often living here in Germany. However, when we're talking about the summer temperatures, they might have an average about 22 degrees Celsius, but in recent years, I found that the temperatures have become so extreme that 35, which was the previous extreme, can be quite normal nowadays, as we've reached above 40 degrees Celsius in the last couple of summers living here in Germany. But when you're talking about the best months of the year, or you would like to come and visit Germany to see what it's all about and the most beautiful places and to see exactly where you would like to live, give every city a good chance and go in the months of April and May. This is when the flowers are blossoming, and I find that in Germany, the winter months tend to end quicker than over in Canada, for example. So in March, you'll actually already see the flowers blooming, and by April, May, you can be hanging out in a long sleeve shirt or a t-shirt and just really enjoying comfortable temperatures here in Germany and being able to actually see every city for what it's worth. The cost of living is probably where you're going to realize that this is where most of your decision lay when it comes to finding a city that works for you and that is affordable for you based on the salary that you might be making here in Germany. In general, I would say that Germany is quite affordable. Coming from Canada, I find that my life here in Germany is actually a bit cheaper than it was back in Canada. One of those reasons is because Germany has actually some of the cheapest groceries in all of Europe, and this makes life a lot easier. It also allows you to eat a lot better on a small budget. So you can take a look at this list and take from it what you would like, but based on the research that I've done, including rent, these are the most popular expat cities that ranked based on their cost of living. So number one being Munich, being the most expensive place to live in Germany for an expat. And then going down the list from Frankfurt, Hamburg, Stuttgart, Freiburg, Berlin, Heidelberg, Cologne, Düsseldorf, Dresden, Essen, Aachen, Leipzig. Of course, there's tons of other cities and towns that you can also consider, but this welcome program would go on forever if we decided to include absolutely every town and city that you should consider. So I went ahead, picked out the most popular expat cities based on job opportunities or expat communities, whatever that might be, threw them in this list, and we're actually going to go through each one of these cities a little bit more in depth so that you can see what you can expect. But one good thing to mention is that if you are looking for something that's a little bit more affordable and you don't mind the language barrier at first, perhaps you already know German, smaller towns tend to be a little bit more affordable, especially if they're just outside of a city. So for example, I live in Düsseldorf. If you would rather consider to live in a bordering city like Krefeld or Duisburg or Kast, these are going to be much more affordable options, especially talking rent-wise. Groceries are going to be around the same price, as will electricity and gas and what have you. However, your rent may be significantly cheaper if you consider to live in a small town just outside of one of these more popular cities. So you're not going to really be able to grasp the concept of cost of living here in Germany unless I actually show you a bit about me and my lifestyle. So listen to what I'm telling you about my lifestyle, and then you can compare and contrast and see, based on what I experience here and the way that I live here, would your cost of living be a little bit higher or perhaps a little bit lower based on what you enjoy, the things that you spend money on. So here's a big list. I live in Düsseldorf, Germany. It is probably a mid to more expensive city here in Germany nowadays. I buy groceries for myself, my husband, and my child. I live in a very central part of the city on the second floor in an older building without an elevator. So you definitely save money if you're moving into an older building with no access to an elevator, but living in the central part of the city is a little bit more expensive than, of course, living a bit out of the city. I don't often spend much on entertainment. I really enjoy hiking and being out. But I really do like going to restaurants. So when I do spend my hard-earned money, I usually spend it on going out to restaurants. That usually happens maybe 2 or 3 times a week sometimes. I do have liability insurance. I also have a public health insurance plan, and we're going to talk about public and private health insurance later on. So this might make a little bit more sense when we go deep into the health insurance scheme. However, right now, just so you have a better idea, public insurance for me is quite affordable. I don't pay church tax, which saves me a little bit of money. And if you look at it, the overall expenses tend to be about 200 euros a month for groceries. I usually shop at the cheaper stores, so we'll also go into different grocery brands. However, I tend to shop at grocery stores like Penny, Aldi, and Lidl. These are my 3 favorite ones, and I do save a lot of money because they are well known as the discount grocery store providers. Also, I tend to buy grocery store brands. So this is, I guess in Canada, our no-name brand or the cheapest brand on the shelf, because I don't find much of a difference. So you can compare. If this is like you, then you can also say, okay, perhaps my budget is going to be somewhere around 200, perhaps less if you're living by yourself, or a little bit more if you have a larger family. My warm rent at the end of the month is 850 euros, and that includes my rent. That includes the electricity, the cable, the internet, the heating, everything together. That usually goes up to about 1,000, perhaps even 1,200 if you're in a more modernized building, perhaps with an elevator or that's been recently renovated. Insurance per month, I pay about 250 euros. However, I am a freelancer, so this price will significantly differ based on if you're employed. I pay my health insurance entirely, whereas if you're employed, you only need to pay 50% of your health insurance fees, so it might be a bit cheaper as well. And entertainment expenses, at the end of the day, I usually spend about 200 euros a month. So all in all, I find this quality of life to be quite good and to be much more affordable than when I lived back in North America. So now for the fun part, we get to compare and contrast some of the cities. I'm not going to say which city is better than another. I definitely have my own personal preferences, but this is to give you a better and more broad idea of what cities you can compare and what cities you can perhaps consider for your new life here in Germany. So you've got Munich, which, as I mentioned, is quite expensive here in Germany, but it is also very modern, very posh, very clean. They tend to have a lot of expat and international job opportunities. You've got the big Oktoberfest, which is always very exciting, especially if you have family and friends coming to visit often. You're also very close to the Alps. You're very close to Austria. You're very close to Switzerland. There are so many opportunities to travel, and if you love nature, you can just hop on one of the regional trains here and just head out into the beautiful mountains. And you've got the English Garden, which you could go every single day and never get bored of. And then going in order from most expensive to least expensive, you've got Frankfurt, which is second on the list. And words that would best describe Frankfurt would be, it is the financial capital of Germany. You'll find a lot of bankers here. You'll find a lot of international jobs regarding banking here in Frankfurt. It is a very central hub because the Frankfurt airport is one of the largest airports here in Germany. And it is quite a young, hip crowd. There are some amazing places to party in Frankfurt, and it really gives you this city feeling. So if you're coming from a city, perhaps from the USA, perhaps you're coming from New York City, and you love this skyscraper experience and that feeling that you get when you're so tiny in the middle of these beautiful, big, massive streets, Frankfurt will be definitely worth checking out. And then you've got Hamburg, and Hamburg is very unique. Its architecture is incredible, and there is so much history regarding their harbor. So you've got the fish market, and it is very alternative. They've got a great football club. Their parties are amazing. It's very international. They've just opened the Elbphilharmonie, and this is also an incredible building there in Hamburg. And the city is just filled with so much life and so much culture. Stuttgart is a little bit calmer. Although it's a university city, it is a nice centrally located city in Germany that has a beautiful zoo. It has amazing, more modern shops. They've also got the Mercedes Museum, which you see in this photo here. It was actually one of my favorite museums I've ever been to in my entire life. And this is coming from somebody who is not a car person whatsoever. They are known for having many engineering students. Of course, this is where many automotive brands are located here in Germany. They also are very close to the beautiful valleys and vineyards, and you're also not that far away from the Black Forest once you drive a little bit further south. I find that Stuttgart might not be as international as perhaps Munich or Berlin, but it is definitely a young and vibrant city that is totally worth checking out. Freiburg stole my heart because I actually moved to Freiburg first when I came here to Germany and spent about 8 months there before my husband got a job here in Düsseldorf, and then we moved up north. But Freiburg is this absolutely beautiful, picturesque Germany. When you think of little half-timbered houses and cobblestone streets and a sunny city with amazing architecture, this is Freiburg, and it's right in the middle of the Black Forest, and you can open your door and see vineyards, and it's very, very close to Switzerland and France. It's not as international as, again, perhaps Munich or Berlin, but if you're looking for this really charming German experience, you are absolutely going to love Freiburg. I actually really miss it living in Düsseldorf. I don't regret moving, but I do miss it all the time and can't wait to go back for a visit again soon. Berlin. This is probably going to be where many of you decide to move to. And that's not because Berlin is better than any of the other cities. Do not get me wrong. It is just simply because Berlin is such an international city. You can walk around Berlin and get by speaking English pretty much your entire day, even sometimes at the grocery store, which for many other cities is absolutely, you'll have absolutely no chance at speaking English in a grocery store. Berlin is full of history. All of the history that you ever learned about Germany is often located right in the heart of Berlin. So you could go out every single day and learn something new. It is a very hip place. Basically, whatever you are, whoever you are, whatever your hobbies are, or you're a fan of anything, you will find it here in Berlin, and you will find friends here in Berlin. It is so lively there. It's full of artists, very alternative, amazing parties, incredible food scene, unbelievable festivals, awesome music. Basically, the list just goes on and on and on. Heidelberg, similar to Freiburg, is also one of those places that is full of beautiful half-timbered homes. It's close to the valley. They have the beautiful Heidelberg Castle, which during the Christmas markets is also incredible. It sits on the Neckar River, so you've always got this beautiful view of this gorgeous river, and you can walk down the cobblestone streets, and there's some great parties too because it's a university city, and the German markets there are so nice. If you already know where you're living, Heidelberg is one of those places that you have to add to your list of places to see and things to do, because you will regret it if you don't take a visit to Heidelberg. Coming from Düsseldorf, I'm not supposed to say anything good about Cologne because there's this obvious rival between Düsseldorf and Cologne, between their beer and their football club, and whatever it might be, I still think that Cologne is absolutely amazing. I find it to be a little bit more open and energetic and young compared to Düsseldorf, where I find Düsseldorf is a little bit more upscale and posh. But Cologne has an amazing LGBT community. They also have awesome music, awesome culture, awesome parties, great sports clubs, and of course you've got the Kölner Dom, or the Cologne Cathedral, which is just an amazing, amazing cathedral that you won't find anywhere else in the world. You can see that in the picture that I've uploaded here. It is an absolutely stunning city. And of course, Düsseldorf. If you're moving to Düsseldorf, definitely check out lifeindusseldorf.com and join our community of tens of thousands of other expats living here in the city. You can also check out in your program workbook and check off all of the cities that you'd like to visit. Of course, we've got our little join our community link there. Otherwise, it's also included down below, so don't worry. You can also add any other cities you'd like to check out to your program workbook. Otherwise, let's jump back into Düsseldorf. We have Altbier instead of Kolschbier, and it is quite different than the beer that is offered in Cologne. As I mentioned, I find Düsseldorf to be quite modern and quite posh. We are an art and fashion capital here in Germany, so you'll see a lot of buildings dedicated to art and to fashion and to trade fairs. We also have the longest bar in the world, which is kind of cool, and we're situated along the Rhine River, so you've always got these absolutely stunning views of the Rhine and amazing sunsets, might I add. You have Dresden, which is also very popularly known as this Disneyland of Germany, or that it's been historically rebuilt. So all of the history that it had was actually rebuilt. Rather than building an entirely new modern city, they rebuilt the entire city to represent the history from way back then. So it is an absolutely beautiful city located right on the Elbe River. There are so many green spaces in the city and hip cafes. I find they've got some really cool hidden streets and hip food culture. And I only got to spend a few days here, so I can't vouch too much for Dresden, but I definitely know that so many people and so many expats really enjoy living here in Dresden. Essen is close to Düsseldorf. I have been quite a few times just simply because it's one train ride away. It is located in the Ruhr region, which is also well known as the industry region. It is great for shopping, for recreation, and they have some amazing, beautiful lakes and nature also around. Essen was actually voted at one point Europe's green capital, so it has its fair share of beautiful green spots. You have Aachen, which is a very student-centered city. It's very international, super close to Netherlands and Belgium. I'm talking like minutes away. And then Leipzig, which is close to Dresden, is also very young, creatable, affordable. It's a very student-based city, and they're very popular for their trade fairs. They also have some great nature and some beautiful lakes. So I hope that mentioning all of these cities has inspired you a little bit to check them all out and to have an open mind when figuring out where you want to live. And like I mentioned, if you already know where you want to live, cool, that's awesome. And this is just another step that you've been able to check off your list. And you can use this module as inspiration to go out and explore when you first get here to Germany.